So today I want to talk about planning, whether you're moving up and into your next home or your dream home, whether you're downsizing from your dream home, forever home, into something a little bit smaller and more manageable, or you're looking to buy your first home from a rental situation. These are all reasons to sit down and make a plan. So let's dive in. Hey everybody, Jeremy Kane, eXp Realty here. Thanks for tuning in. I recently just spent the last 36 hours with my wife at the Crawford Hotel in Union Station, planning out our business, our family, and everything in between. And while doing so, I really had something come to me about my clients, home buyers and home sellers, that we often do not make a plan before we actually execute on what we're trying to do. Setting goals and vision casting is something that's changed my business. I just recently sat down and planned out my entire 2022, big things ahead, so I'm excited to share those things with you as we go. As always, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, comment, let's get the process started. In this, we're going to talk a lot about planning, so if that's something you're interested in, let's dive in and do it. Okay, let's start with the first and most common, probably the most stressful, is moving up into your next home, your dream home, maybe your forever home. This often comes at a very busy time in life, so it's very stressful to keep your household ready to go. Sometimes there's little kiddos, so you're keeping your household ready to go, wanting to list it, want to get the highest price. And then we're focused on moving up. Oftentimes for the dream home, forever home, people want to shop and find the perfect home before they list their home. Typically in this market especially, that's very hard to do, unless of course you can afford to buy your next home before you sell your other home. Typically, most of our financial assets are locked up in equity in our home, so that makes it very difficult to do both. If you can, that's a blessing and definitely the easiest way to do it. But the point is that it takes extreme planning when we're doing this. We need to go find, your next home, see if it's worth it. Sit down with a lender and say, okay, this is what I think I can get for my current home. This is what I qualify for my next home. And then we take that number and we go out and we get into some homes and we see what's actually out there. Is this move really worth it? Can we level up enough to make this our forever home? Is this a dream home that we, absolutely can see ourselves spending the next 20 to 30 years in? Now, like I said, the stress level is extremely high. I've had people go find their forever home and get under contract contingent on selling their house that's not even on the market. And that provided a lot of stress for them to sell at a certain amount and with speed. So sometimes it was like, okay, speed's more important. Let's lower the price just to get it sold right now. And so depending on the market you're in, this takes an extreme plan and a smart plan and understanding and having that confidence to get into your process and know that that next home is going to be out there and the perfect home is going to be out there when the time comes. Now we put your house on the market, hopefully go under contract for the price that you want or more, and then we dive into finding this perfect home. Now, if we do that in any reverse order, the stress level is absolutely high. Expect that. It happens. There are other ways to do it. Typically, it is impossible in this market especially to find your home, get under contract and say, okay, we'll put our house on the market next weekend and have them understand that they're going to take on a contingency that they don't know all the details about. So typically it's best to plan ahead, trust the process, know that the perfect home is going to be there when the time comes, build in contingencies on the sale of your home as well, so you have a little bit of flexibility there, and then go and attack the market and get into that perfect next home. So planning there is a huge thing, and obviously this requires maybe a sit down, maybe a couple 4 hours, going out and seeing, what those homes look like after we know how much you will qualify for once your house is sold and so on. There are some programs out there for, bridge loans and things like that. Typically those cost more and are not great solutions, when in this situation. The next typical situation is a downsize. So this one's a little bit harder. There's stress that comes with this. You're usually leaving a forever home, maybe a home that you raised your family in, and typically at this point in time, we're on fixed incomes and we want to make sure that we don't have a mortgage payment, or we want to lower a mortgage payment, or whatever that may be, depending on your situation. And then also, like, what do we need? Do we need, what are we going to do with all our stuff from our, big home that we've lived in for 30 years collecting things? What are we going to do with the stuff when we move to this other home? Are we going to get rid of it? Are we going to start giving it to family members? Or do we need a place to store it? Maybe an unfinished basement is great for this. Do we need main floor living? How important is main floor living to you as you continue? At this stage, I hear a lot of people say, I don't ever want to move again. So typically I suggest, we probably don't want to have to be going up and down stairs every day. Now you're perfectly mobile, but in the future, that might not be the case. So main floor living is huge, obviously a very hot commodity when it comes to searching, especially for downsizing in this situation. So this is a different kind of plan. It takes some time. It takes, understanding what it's going to cost to sell your house, getting the equity out of it. Typically, we want to be in a cash buyer situation, which makes you a lot stronger on the other end, but you still have a contingency. Unlike a general cash offer, you still have contingencies to sell your house. So we sit down, we take a look, we really nail down what exactly you're going to be looking for, what is a must-have, what nice, just like a normal house, what would be great to have, and then we make a plan. We put your house on the market and we go from there. Generally, this is also a place where we can build in some contingencies, post-closing occupancies, to give you a little bit of time to make that move and make sure that we're in the right house, because we never say never, but we don't want to move again, when we're older in age, because it's such an adjustment and it's physically taxing and so on. So that's the next, kind of phase that I see people in, where planning is an absolute must. Next, we have I'm renting or I'm sleeping in my parents' basement. I want to buy my first home. Now, this is usually the least stressful, but in my opinion, I feel like it's the most stressful, because I know that as a renter or a tenant, you're not building equity. You're missing out on the chance to get into your own home, have your own space, and build equity as you go. Obviously, in a renting situation, you are legitimately paying someone else's debts. You're building someone else's wealth, and that's absolutely not what we, are looking for. So understand that this is usually the least stressful, because you have a place to be, you have a lease, you have this. But to me, it should be the most stressful, because you're wasting valuable time and minutes and hours that you could be building, your own financial freedom versus someone else's. So as we do that, it's very important to plan. I don't know how many times I've had someone call me and say, hey, Jeremy, I know we've talked, over the last year or so, my lease is up in a month. I'm ready to go buy a house. We haven't talked to a lender. We haven't done anything that, we've talked about. So my pledge this year is to make sure, this coming year, is to make sure that 10 people go from renting or staying with a family member into home ownership. And where that starts is right now. Absolutely, it's not too early to reach out to a lender. Typically in these situations, we have some weird, credit issues. We have student loans. We might have a car payment. We might have credit card payments. And, as we go, we need to build up our credit to a certain amount so that you get the best deal possible and you can have the lowest payment and so on. But also, we need to do this right. And paying off a debt, sometimes maybe a debt's in collections and just paying it off, is not the best thing and can't have your credit rebuild as soon as possible. So talking with the lender, they look at your credit, they say, okay, this is kind of where we're at. It would help you to pay off this debt. It would help you to pay off this debt. This debt's pretty good because it has a low minimum payment or whatever that is. But that is a key point in planning and making this happen, because typically first-time home buyers, it takes, maybe 3 to 4 months to get you where you're supposed to be, unless you've been lucky, you didn't have any student loans, you didn't, build up a lot of debt. But that is a huge consideration. So planning ahead, talking to a lender right now. I don't care if your lease is up in a year, 2 years, 18 months, whatever it is. Sit down, talk to a lender and say, this is my goal. Set a goal of home ownership. How do we get there? Follow the path. I've had several people, sit down and say, okay, I'm going to, sell my house or, pay off my car or whatever. And then they miss another payment on their credit card. And this sets them back, hits their credit hard for some reason. 50 points sets them back 4, 5, 6 months in home ownership because they lost track of what it was. So once you talk to a lender, make sure you're dialed in, make sure you know exactly what you need to do. Even the debts that aren't, the main debts we want to pay off. We want to make sure we're making those minimum payments. So this is the planning that needs to go into home ownership and needs to allow you to get out of a situation where you're basically paying someone else's debt down and purchasing your own home so that you can afford things as you go. As life gets more things happen, more kids, more jobs, more people, whatever it is always nice to say, oh, well, I bought this house 5 years ago and I have $100,000 in equity. Like, we can go move up and afford a house that, we can all enjoy, or whatever that is. So the fact is that we can never predict the future. Sitting around renting is never an option, in my opinion. As a landlord, I know there's a time and place for that, but absolutely, let's get you into home ownership and let's understand, okay, I might travel, I'm a nurse, I might travel around. Okay, well then we can rent your home to other travel nurses, pay your mortgage plus, and you're still building that investment while you travel around and do what you want to do. So in my opinion, there's really no reason to not purchase a home, because of something in the future or whatnot, because once you start, you can continue to snowball that and build that up. So the whole point of all of this is the planning sessions that I had, the goal setting sessions I had. I would love to sit down with you. We sit down with financial advisors. We sit down with all kinds of different people, crypto people and things like that. Now, very often we do not sit down with a real estate professional, whether you have a home or homes. Sit down with us every year and let's make a plan. What are you going to do with your equity? How can we maximize this? Are you in the best loan product? Or, hey, I understand I have $0 in the bank. I'm in this lease for 12 months. What do I need to do to get into a home right when this lease is up? And then maybe you get surprised and you can get in sooner, and it's more beneficial that you get in now versus, living out your lease. The, lease termination isn't a huge expense. So on. So let's sit down and make a plan. I'm more than happy to sit down with you confidentially if it needs to be and get you to a point. And that's the whole thing. Like, let's talk to a lender. Let's get a lender involved. You should never be embarrassed to show a lender what your credit history is, because those people look at credit every day. They understand building credit, and they absolutely can help you do that. Granted, you own a home, everything's going good, you want to move up. As we know with the pandemic, nothing is, forever. We might as well love where we're at. We might as well have enough space, and we might as well continue to build our real estate equity and our real estate portfolio as we go. Because one thing is constant in this pandemic is real estate has continued to increase. It's been a hot commodity. And as we see the demand continue to creep into our market, the supply still staying low, now is the perfect time to sit down and make a plan, and so that you are ready to execute. No matter what the market looks like, when you are ready, let's make a plan, get you to where you need to be, and get you in a home as soon as possible. Thanks for tuning in. Jeremy Kane, eXp Realty. Excited to chat with you and sit down and plan. Please DM me, put a note in the comments, give me a call, 303-210-0378, and we will talk and we will make a plan for you to start building your financial freedom. Thanks and have a great day.